Welcome to Dreams Inspire Reality Podcast with Tara Darnley, a podcast for creatives looking to turn their dreams into reality with practical strategic steps from everyday people and entrepreneurs who are living their best lives possible. Dreams inspire reality. Turn your dreams into reality.
Hey everyone, I'm super excited. I think I say that every episode, but I'm actually excited about today's episode because I'm speaking to someone that probably we all need at some point in our entrepreneurial life, right? And so he's going to give us all the tea, and I'm going to introduce him, and then I'm going to have him introduce himself like I always do. And I said him because I know we've been having a lot of female, so we want to bring some male up in here. So today I have Milton Lawrence. And Milton Lawrence is a Baltimore native, U.S. Marine veteran, and internationally recognized lifestyle wedding cinematographer, photographer, philanthropist, podcast host, and speaker, wildly gaining notoriety as the go-to digital documentarian and storyteller to niche brands, brides, and influencers nationally and abroad. So he's international, y'all. His inner city life experience combined with a keen ability to capture and produce cinematic stories and resonates with audience from around the world uniquely positions Milton into a new category of socially conscious philanthropic storytellers. When Milton is not working on commission assignments, you will find him producing makeovers for terminal stage 4 and stage 3 cancer survivors under his Lifesavers 501c. No matter the accomplishment, that the two that matters the most is former caretaker for his mother and father and his 3 daughters and grandson. Milton, I'm so happy to have you on. How are you?
I'm extremely well. Is she talking about me?
Right?
Listening to the bio, it's like, wow. It's an honor and privilege to be here on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I'm going to jump into it. So the question I always ask is, are you living your dream life?
I have to be honest with you. I don't really know what a dream life is, to be honest with you. I think I'm living a life that I created. And it's not a dream. I think a dream is something you aspire to, right? I think that you can either dream about it or you can just go do it. And for me, I've turned my dreams into reality. And I guess that's probably the short way for me to put it. I've turned my dreams into a reality. I used to work a 9 to 5. I spent a few years in the military. And now I answer to me, which is a blessing, sometimes a challenge in and of itself.
Well, that's perfect because that's why our podcast is called Dreams Inspire Reality. So we have some entrepreneurs who are trying to accomplish that dream, some who are nowhere close, and some who are like, you know what, I did it. I've set the tone for whatever it is that, is going to bring me success, happiness. And that I always say that looks different for every single one. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that. That's probably the first answer I've gotten a little bit differently. So definitely thank you for sharing that. And the next question I would ask is, let's take it all the way back. And I want you to introduce yourself in your own words and tell us, how did you get into photography?
Are you looking to diversify your sales channels? Well, look no further. Dreams Inspire Reality Consulting can help you from step to step to launch and grow your brand on Amazon, Walmart, and eBay, the top e-commerce platforms in the world. Your ideal customers are searching for you everywhere but your website. Stop making it hard for them. Let us help you diversify your sales channels. Visit us at www.dreamsinspirereality.com to schedule a consultation.
So as you said before, Tara, my name is Milton Lawrence, international lifestyle photographer, cinematographer, and honestly, a new title, which would be King Content Creator. That's essentially what I've had to pivot into. Coming out of high school, I had a kid on the way. So I went into the Marine Corps, served 8 years in the Marine Corps because I knew I really wasn't college material. I got bored with school very easily. And so I went into the military because I had this responsibility. Spent, 8 years in the military, served overseas. And that's really a fancy way to say I went to war. And then when I came back, I transitioned out and became a defense contractor. About 3 years in, my sister called and said that, mommy's not doing too well, so we need you to come home. And so I was living in San Diego at the time. So I packed the family up and we moved back to the East Coast. And when I did, obviously I added a new title called caretaker, right? And so I didn't do it too smartly. I didn't have a job. Well, I had a defense contracting job, but when they said, mommy not doing well, I became mindless. I walked in like the next day and said, hey, listen, in 2 weeks we're leaving. And I didn't have another job on the other end when I got here. And so when I came, that's how I actually got into photography. So I started shooting in nightclubs just to make ends meet, right? And so back then they would call you the picture man. And then typically you would have a backdrop. This is like 2008, 2009 timeframe. And they would call you the picture man. And so picture man, come take a picture. And this is around the crazy time when, selfies had just came out. Kim Kardashian had just, kind of coined the whole selfie thing. So at that point, literally year one, literally days in, I was already having to reinvent myself because now you have two dynamics all coming together. You have this perfect storm of selfies and cell phone cameras becoming better. And so with those two things happening, people are no longer buying pictures. So this idea of selling pictures for $5 a photo became a really short-lived dream, if you will.
That was amazing because you got pushed into another direction, but you didn't stay there. You made a way out of it. You said, you know what, I need to make ends meet and this is what I'm going to do. So
Absolutely.
when was the turning point where things really started to pivot for you and you actually okay, I got to take this serious because now it's not just an hobby. It's not just going to pay my bills. This is a career.
Absolutely. So I work as a defense contractor. Anyone who has ever had a clearance knows that it takes a little while to get on contract. And so it took me about 4 months to get back on contract. And I want to say probably about 6 months and I was introduced to weddings. And that's when I kind of figured out what my niche was going to be, at least for the next 6 or 7 years. And so I started shooting weddings. And what that did for me, I started as the assistant of the assistant. And what that did was that I'm a networker by nature. And so because I did have a formal career background, I knew how to talk to people. And I served in the military. So at any given time, I had 40 to 60 people under my charge. So you know how to deal with people, right? And so what that led to was working with a lot of hairstylists and makeup artists. And many of them needed headshots for editorials. The big word back then was branding, right? To brand yourself, right? And so Instagram and Facebook was really starting to come into maturity. And now what has happened is now that has put everybody on one single platform. Now, in a single 3-block radius, you could have 10 hairstylists, but nobody would know it. But now you put the internet up, you put Facebook up, and now everybody knows that there's 10 hairstylists. And so they all needed to be able to, there was the fight for positioning, online. This is when you could see everybody's posts, right? You can't see everybody's posts now. So they make you pay for it now, right? And so the long and short of it, so they needed images, and they needed images quickly. And not only just for the social media pages, but also for editorials, for various magazines and things like that. That led to being invited to start doing things internationally, doing destination weddings. And then through networking, working with the local magazines in those various countries, whether it's Jamaica, Trinidad, all throughout the Caribbean, Barbados, and things like that. That's kind of how I started to make a name for myself. And because my father's from Trinidad, my family's from Trinidad, I was able to blend in really, really well. So to answer your question, that's kind of a long answer. I believe what really happened was I went to a conference, okay? And I think this is the real pivotal moment. I went to a conference about 4 years in, and it was called the Coterie Retreat. There's a magazine called the Munaluchi Bride, right? It's a kind of a luxury magazine really for multicultural weddings. Yeah. And so I went to the conference, and when I went there, unbeknownst to me, Tara, there was a gentleman there by the name of Jide. Jide is a Nigerian photographer, well-renowned, and he would do 40 weddings a year. And out of those 40 weddings he would do, 35 of them were international. And I don't mean throughout the Caribbean, right? And so he was on a plane going somewhere. And so what you're seeing right now, when you see me all over the place, it's really, it was when I saw that, I said, oh, you can live that lifestyle, because I've always loved to learn, and I love to travel, I love to dance, I love to eat, all those things put into one. This was the perfect lifestyle for me, right? It was really less about the dream and more about the lifestyle that I wanted to live. And then for people who, I guess they see the lifestyle, well, that's a dream. I guess it could be. It's not something I never looked at as being the dream. What I chased after wasn't the dream, was the lifestyle I chased after, which was a combination of having money, having time to enjoy it, and being in a position where nobody could take it away from me.
Yes. Being in a position where no one can take it away from you. I love that. Yeah. That's probably going to be the title. But since you're our first expert guest when it comes to photography, and like you mentioned before, branding is everything right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Freaking out about branding. My branding is not good. I need to rebrand. I need to change. What would you say has been the number one mistake you've seen across the board that small businesses are making when it comes to branding? And I'm not sure if you could pick one, but if you can tell me the one mistake that you're okay, everyone is making this mistake.
No, I can pinpoint it, to be honest with you. Before you can do any branding, your product and or service must be top notch.
Can you say that again? Can you say that?
Your product and or service the precursor, before you start adding on top of the pretty and before you adding on the psychology of what you want people to know about you and what you want them to say about you, it all starts with your product. Because at the end of the day, there are companies out there, and I can name no less than 10 of them, that do no branding at all, but they're known in their markets. I'll give you an example. There's a place in Atlanta, Georgia called That Fire. Every celebrity that ever lands into Atlanta, and I know this because I know the owners, right? And I would happen to be hanging out with them in Trinidad, masquerading all over Trinidad for Carnival. And so she said, and when I got a chance to ask her, she said, we've been open for 4 years and we've never done any marketing, none whatsoever. Our secret to success is we have a quality product. That's it. And we let everything else take its place. When people come to us and they want to, send us influencers and they want to do this and they want to do that, nope. He says, all we do is we have a quality product, and that sustains us. And it also, we do really, really well, to be honest with you, just with that. He said that's our secret to success.
That's deep. It sounds simple, but it's like when people hear it, they're like, well, no, if the branding comes first, then it's like the product doesn't matter. And in some cases, and in some instances, and for some people with big bucks to do a certain type of branding, of course, that works. But for small businesses, sometimes, like you said, most of the time, majority of the time, your product needs to actually work. Your service actually needs to work.
Absolutely.
And so even when it comes to service, because you're in the service space, what are some of the challenges that you face with just putting your service out there? And because you provide quality and maybe people aren't able to see that right away, they really have to trust the process. How do you engage with your customers for them to really trust the process, especially, like you said, social media, there's word of mouth, like maybe they're referred to you, but for most part, they're seeing some part of your work before they get to you, right? So is that a challenge that you face, like putting your service out there and really sticking to your price, your quality, and saying, you know what, I'm going to deliver?
Yeah, so I've gone through that roller coaster, right? I've gone through the roller coaster of, should I charge more? Should I lower my price? Should I not charge anything at all? Should I barter? Should I use my service as a means of getting to something bigger? I think that's really a multi-part question that you asked. And for me, what I've experienced, I started off obviously charging next to nothing just to build my portfolio. And once the portfolio was built, this has always been kind of my workflow. I would build a portfolio in a particular area. If I was going into a new niche, I would build a portfolio in that area. I would literally give the service away for free just to get people to talk about it. But back then, it wasn't strategic, right? It wasn't strategic. That was just my way of doing it. I would just give away. So, okay, here's probably a bad example, but it works. So I grew up in the inner city of Baltimore, right? And in Baltimore, if you've ever seen the TV show The Wire, it's really just like that. And so I was never a drug dealer, but I grew up around it, right? And so whenever they had a new drug, they would hand out teasers, right? And then inevitably, days later, people would come. They would have long lines of people out there buying drugs, buying for $5, $10 or whatever it was they were selling it for. Well, I felt that same thing still works today. As a matter of fact, I think that's the freemium model, and, if you really think about it. And so the long and short of it, that was my way of doing it. Today, it's a little bit different. I read a book that really, really helped me, and that book is called Blue Ocean Strategies. And what that book did for me was, in juxtaposition and comparison to the way I used to market my business, I wanted to try to compete on price. I wanted to try to compete on quality. I wanted to try to compete on all these different things. And what I realized was that you can't compete on any of those things. Mm-hmm. And even your branding. I believe if any of your listeners were to take this piece of advice, it would absolutely change their 2019. Mm-hmm. And that is, go where you're wanted, go where you're needed, and go where you're not found. I just made that up, and that sounds good. I think I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, right.
Go where you're wanted, go where you're needed, and go where you're not found. And when the whole Blue Ocean Strategies is basically, I'm a part of a mastermind called TSP. That's where you and I met, Tara, right? Mm-hmm. And if I can remember, I think if I'm correct, of about 100 of us, there's only 2 videographers, right? And our styles are totally different. And that's just one example of that. And so no matter what your product or service is, obviously conferences and continual education is extremely important. But how I chose to differentiate myself and no longer have to compete on all those variables, pricing and branding and this and quality and things like that, was I turned myself into the authority, right? I turned myself into the authority. And so now it was, yes, the work mattered, but really it was about connecting with me. And when they connected with me, there is no comparison. There's nothing to compare to. And so what I found is by putting myself in a position, is really about positioning yourself where you're wanted, you're needed. And really there is no other competition. Then guess what? Then all the business ends up coming to you. And if you need an example of that, I can text you one that you've actually experienced. You've actually seen it. whether you actually knew it or not. It was something that I wanted to test out. I knew it would work for me, but I wanted to see if it would work for other people. And if you don't mind, I can actually share it with you. All right. So I would go to conferences, right? Just give me examples, right? Grocery strategies, right? So most makeup artists and hairstylists, what they will do is they market their business on Instagram, right? They may go to their conferences, but the only conferences that they go to are the ones dealing with hair and makeup. Mm-hmm. Now, the biggest movement in the world right now happens to be the women empowerment movement. Now, if they would go to one of these conferences, they would only go as the makeup artist or indoor hairstylist. But they would never actually go into the conference. They would go and do hair and makeup, and they would leave. Right. What did you do that for? So I told some friends, because obviously I started in that area. I told them, they said, well, look, how have you been able to grow? I go where I'm wanted. I go where I'm wanted. I go where I'm needed, right? And, that type of thing. And so I said, how many times have you actually gone inside the conference and just went in and asked a question, but introduced yourself? So that everybody in there knew that you were the makeup artist, because the people that come into these women empowerment conferences, they're not makeup artists, but they all need makeup, right? And guess what? They all host conferences. So I had two people to do it. And now they're the head makeup artists with at least 12 to 13 makeup artists doing makeup at various conferences around the country. Because they went where there was no competition. They, you know what I mean? And everybody in there needed them. Every woman that was in there, the smallest one was probably about 60 women. The biggest one was about 300. And so when the women who attend these conferences all host their own conferences. So this becomes this perpetual thing over and over and over again. So it's one thing when it really works for me, right? I go to places where I'm the only one to either offer my product or service. Or if there's one other person, there's a clear distinction between what they offer and what I offer. I know it's a long answer, but No,
that's actually a great answer, because like you said, I always talk about that in my Facebook group, like, how are you putting yourself out there in the marketplace where you're differentiating yourself and your services, especially when you do something that's needed. So when you mentioned that, the first person that came to mind was Nicia, who's the founder of Fab's Beauty. She owns a brand. And she's at most of the conferences I go to. And so, of course, if you're there, sometimes you want to, especially if you have to speak, you want to be glammed up and stuff. And so you're able to hire her on spot. And like you said, she's the only one there. So it's very niche. And then on top of that, I remember like all the women were just like swarming her. Like she said before, she was like the drug pusher of the event, because she was like selling her lippies. And women were like, oh, your lippies look good. Can I get one? And she was just like, selling it. So that's a great example of, going somewhere new. Let's talk about profile pictures. So for profile shots, which has become a must-have, especially for entrepreneurs, whether it's your LinkedIn profile picture or your Instagram, whatever, your social media profile picture just needs to be professional nowadays, just to put your best foot forward. So can you give us some tips? Maybe there are entrepreneurs listening, that they're just starting up, they're on a budget, they might not be able to hire someone professionally to get it done, but they want to at some point. Can you give them a tip on how should your profile picture look? Because we've seen some, I'm trying to say this nicely, but we've seen some, and they're like, their tongue is out, their head. It's just crazy, and it's not professional. And that's first impression for someone that might necessarily want to do business with them. So give me the 5 top things your profile picture must have.
Are you looking to diversify your sales channels? Well, look no further. Dreams Inspire Reality Consulting can help you from step to step to launch and grow your brand on Amazon, Walmart, and eBay, the top e-commerce platforms in the world. Your ideal customers are searching for you everywhere but your website. Stop making it hard for them. Let us help you diversify your sales channels. Visit us at www.dreamsinspirereality.com to schedule a consultation.
So I won't limit it to 5. I'll give you something right off the top of my head, right? The first one of which is, I say this tongue in cheek. I want to say you want to stay true to your brand, meaning stay true to who you are, right? But if there's a disconnect between what your customers expect and who you are, then therein lies the possible disconnect. So I would say a couple things you want to do when it comes to headshots. Your headshots should be taken by someone who understands your body type, right? So when you're looking for a photographer that's going to come in and shoot, here's the thing. There's some things you just don't want to skimp on. And this is just one of them, right? And so I found that you can find pretty decent headshot photographers for about $150. for basic headshots.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is a difference between headshots and branding. A brand session is typically 3 to 4 looks, right? In an environment that would be conducive to whatever your clients would expect you to be in. So as an example, if you do makeup, then obviously you would either be there with your makeup and that type of thing. Sure, you would have some clean clean white background shots, but you're also going to want to have lifestyle pictures as well. Because, today it's all about connection. And, if you have just the simple corporate white indoor gray background, that's cool. You need that. But in addition to that, you're definitely going to want to have some lifestyle shots. In addition to that, the types of shots that most people don't know to have is to show your humanitarian support, right? Show your humanity, right? And believe it or not, when clients are researching you, especially these millennials, when they're researching you, they're looking for that human aspect. They're looking for the humanity side of things. As far as hair and makeup is concerned, ladies, you should get your makeup professionally done, period, case closed. Fellas, here's a quick tip. Don't get your hair cut that day. And the reason for it is because when we get our shape-ups and we get our lineups, typically because we're shooting with high-quality cameras, it's going to show. And it's going to cost you more because the photographer is going to have to do more post-production as far as cleaning up and things like that. If you have a little bit of weight on you that you don't want to show or you're kind of self-conscious of, I will say to you, if you try to hide it, it's going to show more, right? It is the most unintuitive thing in the world. It's backwards.
You're going to have to touch on that a bit because us women, no matter how small you are, you think you got something that don't need to be showing. And you're like, I'm sticking it in.
Yeah.
I'm sticking it in.
Yeah.
What I'm supposed to do in that situation.
No, so you can't see you, right? When you're in the middle of a session, you can't see you, right? And so I specialize in posing curvy women, right? Most of my sisters are curvy, and a lot of the executives that I shoot and things like that, they're curvy. And so a lot of times that is the photographer being sensitive to his subject, his or her subject. If it's a female photographer, same thing. And it's just little small things that there's a difference between contouring the body and trying to hide, right? And so a couple of colors that you want to stay away from, a lot of your whites will make you look bigger. Stripes will make you look bigger, things like that. And so especially stripes that go up and down, okay, they will make you look bigger. As a matter of fact, you just want to stay away from stripes altogether. Flower shirts, that's fine. But if you're wearing baggy white shirts, it'll make you look bigger. Black makes you look smaller naturally and things like that. But those will be some of the quick tips. There's tons and tons more. And I would say, there's tons and tons more. And if you have other questions that you want to get me to dive a little bit deeper on, I have no problem with doing that. But the key is, honestly, it doesn't matter what the person's price is. When you're looking through their portfolio, whether it be through Instagram, on their website, Facebook, or whatever the case may be, please do not make the mistake of doing this. When people go onto Facebook and say, I need a photographer, recommend your photographer. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. And I'm going to tell you the reason why, because that will turn into a full-time job for you, okay? You'll end up having to screen through all of these photographers, because everybody thinks their photographer is the ish, right? And the reality of it is, it's just not true, right? And so whoever that photographer that made them look good at the party, they think that it translates over, and it's not. You need a specialist. You need someone who specializes in great headshots, indoor branding shots, and that type of thing. And so we're actually rebranding and launching. And I started off by saying this to you that, I started off as a photographer and a cinematographer, right? Well, it started off as photography. The demand came for video. And so then I just became a freelance, both photography and video. And right now, what we didn't realize was the whole time we were creating content for a bunch of people, for a bunch of brands and clients and things like that, for nonprofits and things like that. And so this rebranding, this pivot, if you will, is rebranding and putting everything under one umbrella. So we call that the Milton Lawrence Creative Agency. And so you'll see product photography, you'll see headshots, you'll see branding shots, literally in the days to come. We just wrapped up a product shoot here. Matter of fact, we were shooting Nisha's products. How about that? We were shooting some of her cosmetic products because while we were out in Vegas, we did this 4-look shoot. I can't wait to reveal that. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. And she went from shooting locally to now shooting domestically all over the country. And now her imagery now matches the quality of the products that she was putting out. And because there was a huge disconnect. Hopefully, I know I took you a little bit off topic, but just want to bring that back.
Stop saying that. We listening. We taking notes. We're taking notes. We are loving it because when we have this content, like it goes. That's the thing I love with my podcast. It can literally go wherever. We're not restricting anything, any conversation. We're just taking notes. Okay, we're just taking notes. So that was excellent tips. I didn't even think about for the fellows and cutting the hair like that. Guys, if you're listening now, So that was a great tip. And just, in terms of the branding, and I know you just mentioned doing videos for small businesses, and that's a
Mhm.
thing now. Everyone wants to have some type of commercial, some type of video content, and it being professional because we know consumers are consuming more video content and they're not even listening to the video. They're just looking at the visual
You're
of
looking
the
at it.
video.
Yep.
Those are the ones converted. So that's essential now in having a part of that added to your branding and just your marketing. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, what should we include in our branding video, whether it be for a service-based business, say a consultant versus someone with a product-based business? What are some of the essentials you think that customers are looking for now when it comes to video content?
I'm glad you asked that question. So I would say, you know what I mean? Right now, the key differentiator online obviously is video, as you just mentioned. Bill Gates said this probably at the turn of the century, between 1999 and 2000. He said any business that's not online, in the next 2 to 5 years won't be in business. And there were quite a few businesses that didn't listen to him, right? Somebody recently quoted that if you don't have video in your business in the next 2 to 5 years, you will not be in business, right? And so entrepreneurs are now having to not only be the manager in the business and be the service provider and all that kind of stuff, they're now having to figure out how to incorporate, video into their business. And so here's what I would say to you. I don't care if it's a product-based business, if it's a service-based, if you're a consultant, often speaker, online marketer, or whatever the case may be, you need to put together what we call authority magnet videos. And what these authority magnet videos do is these are positioning videos to help you to position you as the authority in your market space. Okay. Yes, people want to buy products, but in addition to them, when it's time for them to make a decision, okay, there's a reason why Rihanna is the face, the brand, the face of, was it Fenty Beauty, right? So they didn't have to establish a brand. She already had the brand, right? She was already the authority, if you will. She's already a pretty girl. She kind of had this bad girl that was her branding that they put around it. That was her authority. Now you match it up with a product, right? Most people think the product took off because of the product. Yeah, it's a quality product. But what happened is you need an authority. That's what all the surveys, that's what all of the reports are coming back and saying, that you have to be able to establish yourself as an authority, especially if you're going to be able to compete in today's market. Now, if you have a consumable, right, you have a small consumable, whatever the case may be, as long as the product is quality and you have enough eyeballs seeing it, I think it'll move, right? But even with that, you still need to be able to show lifestyle engagement, with that product. So again, let's go back to using a cosmetic, if you will. You just can't take pictures of just the cosmetic. You have to show that application of that makeup being put on, the various uses of that makeup, the different looks that you could potentially do, the do's and the don'ts of who should wear it and who shouldn't wear it, things like that. And so when you can build community around it and now others are creating video around it, then you create a really special thing. And that's what Fenty's been able to do, just kind of watching their business model and things like that. But it's for a small business owner, it doesn't matter if you clean carpet, if you write books, especially if you're an author. If you are an author, then you need to have at least 50 to 60 of these authority magnet videos out there where you're answering some of the questions. And I'll give you a format that I teach, right? Because we do this on a monthly basis. And so here's the format. You essentially, whatever your products or services, you want to let people know that you're there for them, right? People don't make a decision to buy from you, as soon as they run across your brand. Typically, they're Googling a problem. And whatever the problem is that your product or service solves, you want to take those frequently asked questions that you get all the time that people are Googling, and you want to create a series of videos for that, okay? And so these videos should be no longer than maybe 2 to 3 minutes long. And essentially the format is you're going to acknowledge the problem. You're going to agitate the problem a little bit more to let them know that you understand where they're coming from, right? And then you're going to put them on the road to success. I didn't say give them a solution. I just said you put them on the road to success. Essentially what happens now is, oh, you get me. Then you become the pastor to them. If you ever went to church and the pastor says something like, wait a minute, was you like in my pocket? How you know I did all that? How you know I'm feeling that? And what happens then, it's a psychological thing that says, you know what, you get me, you understand me. And now they want to go a little bit deeper to find more about your products and services, and they want to buy it. So it's a 3 to 4 step process versus a one-time transaction.
That was excellent tip because, like you said, I always tell my clients that as well, like video converts better, especially in a marketplace like your website. Most of my clients deal with Amazon. So it's like, okay, if you're on Amazon, you're seeing, like you said, multiple products and you're seeing all these things. But if you have that one amazing video that explain that solution to that problem, there you go. You solve that problem. So that was excellent tip. So guys, make sure your videos are not just like you looking cute I mean, that's cool and all, but we want to see you solving a problem in your video. So that was an excellent tip. So now we're going to go into the fun round.
Okay.
Nip a little bit. So for the fun round, you have approximately 2 seconds to answer the question. So I know smart entrepreneurs like to think about stuff and analyze. No, 2 seconds. So
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Favorite entrepreneur?
Tony Robbins.
Latest business win?
Latest business win?
Yes.
Contract with a major nonprofit?
Yes. Favorite business tool?
Ooh, 17 hats.
Last book you read?
Ooh, The One Thing.
Last movie you watched?
Ooh. Oh, wow.
2 seconds.
Yeah. Wakanda forever. I know it's one after that, but I'm just, okay, you said 2 seconds. Go ahead.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Rich.
Last good deed done for you?
Wow. This past weekend, I got to tell you what it is.
Yes, we want to hear.
Someone actually paid it forward for a class from me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Last
paid it forward.
That was great. We were like, wait, you're not going to tell us? Last business failure and the lesson you learned.
Wow. Last business failure. Not firing fast enough. And what was the second part of that question? I guess
you answered the second part, the lesson you learned from it.
Yeah, and I not firing fast enough.
Okay.
Yeah. Writing was on the wall, and I just didn't.
You good?
Okay.
The best advice for our listeners to be successful entrepreneurs.
Get out of your own way.
Get out of your own way. Y'all heard it here first. And please let our audience know where they can find you, how they could connect with you. If you have something for them, now is the time to share it with them. Because I'm sure after this, they're going to be like, okay, we need those videos. We need that. We need Milton in our life.
Absolutely. So right now, you can follow me. So the first thing, my entire brand is under my name. It's Milton Lawrence Jr., right? I like to try to keep things simple, right? And so the Milton Lawrence Creative Agency Instagram page will be launching this Friday. And that way you'll get a chance to see kind of the smorgasbord of visual content that we create for our clients, whether it's video or photography or whatever you may need, or even strategy for that. So once you create the photography and video, what do I do with it, right? How do I position it so I can turn it into a magnet and bring people back to me, right? And so I would say it starts there. If you're going to follow me on Facebook, just let them know that you connected here on the podcast. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to inbox me. We love answering questions. We love connecting with people, and we go from there.
Love it. And we're going to put all Milton's information in the show notes, so don't worry about it. If you didn't catch it, we'll definitely put it there for you to be able to go and follow him, all that good stuff, and see all the awesome content that he's going to be putting out with his rebranding. So we definitely look forward to that, and we're definitely going to support you and wish you the best in your rebranding. And thank you again for spending time with us today and sharing all your knowledge and resource, and we're definitely going to implement them for sure. So thank you, Milton.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor and privilege to be able to come onto the podcast, especially being one of the only men, right? Yeah. And it's definitely a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing the success, not just of this podcast, but even from your listeners as well. And would love to come back at any point in time to be able just to share, to go in depth if we need to on any particular topic so that we can help people to grow. Yes, we definitely could have you in the group because we have expert trainers in our group where most of our listeners are, and it's awesome. So we're definitely, if you guys want to see Milton, let me know y'all want to see Milton in the group. But for sure, we will definitely love to have you to come give us some pointers on all of these things that's very much needed in our branding. So until next time, guys, dream big, execute hard. Bye.
Dreams inspire.